Hey guys, today we'll be taking a look at the Ohio Senate race this year. Really, it should not be one of our 8 battleground races, but after everything that's happened over the last couple of months, Ohio really is going to be one of the deciding races as to who will control the upper chamber for the next 2 years. And the reason why I'm going over Ohio is because we've seen even more new polls showing Democrats ahead in the state. A poll was added just today showing Tim Ryan leading by a 3% margin against J.D. Vance, and this comes after just a couple of days ago there were 3 other new Ohio polls, all putting Tim Ryan by double-digit margins ahead of J.D. Vance. And if you look at all the polls that have been done for this race, on average, according to 538, Tim Ryan leads by a margin of 3.9%. And I mean, just look at every single poll that has been conducted since late May, Tim Ryan has led in every single one of them. And this is really just very bad news for the Republican Party. In 2016, Rob Portman won his re-election by a solid 21% margin against Ted Strickland, and Donald Trump over the last decade really has transformed the state. In 2012, the state of Ohio was an Obama state, voted for the former president by 3%. In 2008, Ohio voted for Obama by 4.6%. However, in 2016, Trump defeated Hillary Clinton here by a margin of 8%, and even in 2020, with Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee, Donald Trump still won Ohio by 10%. This is just how much the state has shifted to the right over the last couple of years. And so Ohio should not be even nearly as competitive as it is right now. Tim Ryan really does stand a chance in this race. According to the betting odds, he has a 3 in 10 chance at actually defeating J.D. Vance. And the main reason for Democrats doing so well is not the fact that they're doing well at all nationwide, but just because of the fact that J.D. Vance is an exceptionally weak nominee. He's an author, he's written some pretty popular books about political philosophy, but he has never actually run for political office, and J.D. Vance is somebody that was a never-Trump Republican in 2016, but since he has entered this race last year, he has been pandering to the Trump base, and of course, in the end, he did receive the endorsement of the former president. That is what helped him win his primary race against Josh Mandel. Mandel was the 2012 nominee for Senate. He lost to Sherrod Brown, and Brown ran for his second term, and J.D. Vance had probably one of the weakest GOP primary wins for any race this year. 32% really is very low, not even close to a majority of the GOP supported him. However, if you look at the Democratic primary, Tim Ryan, the much more electable candidate, did win 70%. And I say electable because he has won 10 races in the last 2 decades for his House seat, and his House seat has been one that has been pretty difficult to win. Tim Ryan is the current U.S. representative for the 13th congressional district of the Buckeye State, and if you look at his electoral history in the 13th district, he has had some pretty strong victories, and if you look at his complete electoral history, Tim Ryan has never lost a race in which he was the Democratic nominee in. Of course, he ran in the 2020 Democratic primary, but he did not really get close to winning it. He dropped out pretty early on, but if you look at the 13th district, he has won 72% in 2012, 69% in 2014. Even in 2016, Tim Ryan won 68% when Donald Trump carried the state by 8%. And Ohio's 13th district is probably the closest district in the state. It has a partisan lean of D+1 according to the Cook Political Report. Basically what this means is that in Tim Ryan's district, the Democratic Party only has a 1% advantage. So his margins of victory over the last decade really have been very impressive, and this is why Tim Ryan is a good nominee. He has basically the same political history length as Sherrod Brown and is very well known in the state. And so Sherrod Brown is the 3-term senator from the state. He won against Jim Renacci in 2018. Renacci this year actually lost the Republican primary for governor to Mike DeWine. In 2012, Sherrod Brown again defeated Josh Mandel to win his second term in office, and he first won in 2006 at the end of the Bush presidency. Of course, this was against Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine is now the governor of Ohio. So Sherrod Brown in 2012 was able to win despite Obama having a pretty weak showing in the state. And in 2018, this was 2 years after Trump flipped the state with an 11% shift. Sherrod Brown still won by 6%. And the issue here for Democrats right now in 2022 is Sherrod Brown still did underperform the polls. If you look at Tim Ryan's margin of 3.9%, you go back to 2018, this was a blue wave year, and Sherrod Brown still significantly underperformed polling expectations. He was up by double digits in basically every single poll, much better than the numbers that we're seeing for Tim Ryan right now. So this race is still very, very competitive, even though Tim Tim Ryan is leading in all of these polls, he is not leading in margins anywhere near the margins that we saw for Sherrod Brown 4 years ago. And so in 2018, this was still a big win for Democrats. Jim Bernanke was somebody that the Republicans tried so hard to prop up, but in the end, he did not even come close. And Sherrod Brown is actually to the political left of Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan is more moderate of a Democrat than Brown, and so that will make it easier for him to actually win a race in a year like 2022, a year in which Democrats are not too popular in a state that Democrats aren't in the majority in either. However, if you do look at the polls that have put Ryan ahead, basically all of them have been pretty bad polls. 6 of them were actually SurveyMonkey polls. These are online polls. It does not mean that they're necessarily bad, but the methodology that they use could definitely be improved. And if you look at the 5 other Ohio polls, they basically are all either funded by the Tim Ryan campaign, Innovation Ohio, which is a partisan sponsor for the Democratic Party, or they were funded by the John Bolton Super PAC, which is actually a Republican sponsor, but it is surprising that Tim Ryan actually led by 6% in this poll. So the last actually reliable poll that we got was this USA Today poll that showed Vance up by 2. This was in late May, so basically a month after J.D. Vance won his nomination. It was very early in the race. However, if you look at the same poll conducted for the governor election between Mike DeWine and Nan Whaley, Mike DeWine led by a margin of 16%. Yes, he's the incumbent, but we see a huge disconnect between these two races. It's similar to what we're seeing in the 2 Georgia races. On the Senate level, Democrats are up by a margin of 3%. However, if you look at the governor election between Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams, Kemp leads by a 5% margin. So in the governor election in the Peach State, Democrats are doing 8% better on the Senate level than on the gubernatorial level, even though the state of Georgia is a state that is very, very purple, and a state that Republicans really should be leading in by much bigger margins in both of these races. And if you look at the Ohio race, Mike DeWine really is doing very well. That cannot be disputed. He is probably going to win his re-election by a solid margin. Dan Whaley is not that great of a candidate, but Mike DeWine is doing significantly better than J.D. Vance, and that is the issue for Republicans on the Senate level. The governorship in Ohio is basically locked in for the GOP, but the Senate seat is becoming more and more competitive by the day. If you look at the same poll by USA Today, Vance was up by 2%, and only 2%. I mean, that is well within the margin of error. J.D. Vance performed 14% worse than his gubernatorial counterpart. So this is the issue for the Republican Party. J.D. Vance simply is not that great of a nominee. Yes, Biden may not be popular in the state. However, if you look at many other races, Joe Biden's popularity have really not had as big of an effect as the poor nominees that the GOP has chosen. Just look at the Georgia race again. I mean, Herschel Walker down by 3%. Raphael Warnock is positively approved of in the state of Georgia, even though Joe Biden only has a 30% approval rating there. So the Democratic Party in Ohio really does have a chance, and so that is why they're pumping more and more money into this race. And if it does become more competitive, Tim Ryan could become the next senator from the Buckeye State. And we also have fundraising numbers, of course, to look at between Ryan and Vance. So these numbers were reported after the second fiscal quarter of 2022, which ended on the 30th of June. And so far, Tim Ryan has raised $21.5 million, 7 times more than the $3 million that J.D. Vance has raised. And the last report filed in late June was basically over 2 months after both of these candidates won their nominations. So both Tim Ryan and J.D. Vance were already very well within the race here, and Tim Ryan has raised $8.7 million from small individual contributions. This is what Bernie Sanders did so well in 2016 and 2020, getting a lot of money from these grassroots donations. And if you look at Ryan's numbers, he is absolutely crushing it compared to Vance. Vance has raised a shocking $99,522 from small individual contributions. He's basically gotten most of his money from the other category, or large individual contributions, as well as PAC contributions, and even $700,000 in self-financing. And currently, the Vance campaign only has $628,000 in terms of cash on hand, while Tim Ryan has $3.5 million. Now, these two races are not exactly great in terms of fundraising. We have seen many more races that fundraising is absolutely crazy, and Ohio is not one of them, but Tim Ryan is doing significantly better, and he does have the sufficient funds he needs to successfully run a campaign in the state, even up to November. And on top of that, according to 538, Democrats have a 59% chance at winning the upper chamber. So looking at their forecast for the Ohio race, currently JD Vance still is heavily favored here with a 77% chance at winning. It is still a likely Republican state, but JD Vance only has a 3 in 4 chance of winning. The other 1 in 4 chance goes to Tim Ryan. That really is still pretty significant. Donald Trump had a worse than 23% chance at winning the 2016 presidential election, according to most forecasters. And if you look at the margin here over the last couple of months, this race went from a 10-point race for the GOP all the way down now to a 6-point race. And looking at the odds for Tim Ryan, they've more than doubled over the last 2 months. It started at just 10% at the very beginning of June when this forecast was first created, and now Tim Ryan's odds have gone all the way up to 23, with every single poll basically showing Ryan leading. And if you look at the Decision Desk HQ forecast, it is slightly better here for Democrats, with JD Vance having just a 69.5% chance at victory, 30.5 for Tim Ryan. And same thing, we see a very similar pattern overall. The odds for the Democrats have increased by over double over just the last 2 months. And of course, this comes as Democrats are doing better and better nationwide as well. DDHU currently gives Democrats a 4% lead on average, very similar to the 538 average. And of course, if you look at the fundraising for both numbers, I mean, Tim Ryan is absolutely crushing it. And these are actually even more updated numbers. So this was updated on the 14th of July. JD Vance still only has $628,000 cash on hand, 3.6 million for Tim Ryan. And looking at the generic ballot, Democrats are now leading by 0.1% for the first time in over 9 months. Democrats have taken the lead nationwide against the GOP, and this is one of the main reasons why Ohio is being talked about. With Democrats doing better and better nationwide, it really is possible that Democrats may actually expand upon their Senate majority. Joe Biden's numbers have pretty much stabilized over the last month. They have gone up slightly in the last couple of weeks, but still, Joe Biden's numbers are not in any way good. And if you look at this year's Senate map, if Democrats do indeed win Ohio, if they do, I think it would be basically a margin of 1% maximum, so it will be a very, very close race if Tim Ryan wins. If Democrats win Ohio, it is done for the Republican Party. The Republican Party will not be able to win in Pennsylvania if Ohio goes blue, and of course, if both of these states vote blue in New Hampshire, even if both of these states did not go blue, New Hampshire is so likely to be a Democratic state. So we have the state of New Hampshire, and then in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, Democrats only have to win one of these races, with both Mark Kelly and Raphael Warnock positively proved of in their 2 states. So let's say Mark Kelly wins, and that is enough for Democrats to hold on to control of the Senate, because of course Democrats also flip Pennsylvania along with Ohio. Now, in the end, I do not believe that Democrats are going to win Ohio, at least as of right now. I do think that the GOP still has a very clear advantage in this race, but it really should be very worrying for the Republican Party how this race is trending. Tim Ryan is one of the best nominees that Democrats have put up this year, and it really is starting to show. And looking at our very competitive Senate map here, I do still have Ohio as a lean Republican state. I think that Republicans do still have a slight advantage just because of how Republican of a state it has become. I have Pennsylvania as a lean Democratic state, as well as New Hampshire and Arizona, and then I will give Republicans Wisconsin and North Carolina. So still a very competitive Senate map for both parties. Both parties are still very much in every single one of these 8 toss-up races, even in Ohio, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. And of course, for Republicans, they still have a very good chance at winning in Georgia and Nevada. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like it down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below whether or not you think Tim Ryan can actually win in the Buckeye State. Do you think JD Vance is going to come out on top despite his weak polling numbers? And do you even trust the polls that we're seeing? Subscribe to my channel if you have. Consider getting a channel membership for just $1 a month, and I will see you guys in the next video.